Going to go 13 free throw attempts. With an 85% free throw shooter, you're going to have good results at the end of games.
B.J. Smith drives. Oh, what a move! Holy cow, the defensive gem of the year!
Hey, I love the money, attracted, fucking on the actress. Call me Stone Cold, I got her flipping on the mattress. Took her to see Luca, we first flighting out of Dallas. I just put some digits on the scale and made it balance. Love the money, attracted, fucking on the actress. Call me Stone Cold, I got her flipping on the mattress. Took her to see Luca, we first flighting out of Dallas. I just put some digits on the scale and made it balance. Hit my line, I'm taxing. I've been off them drugs, back to back, now it's a habit. Posted in the slums with them drums, Lenny Kravitz. Shaq in 92, I hit the...
YouTube. What's good, family? You already know the name, man. Pays and Plays podcast here. Going to be giving y'all sweet 16 picks and predictions. Listen, man, we did good. First round, we broke even 2-2. We had BYU -2. They won. Creighton plus 108 on the money line. They won. The losses, though. UC San Diego, Michigan over 141. I was short by like 4 points. Yeah, so that happens. Memphis, they lost to Colorado State. That happened. Now, follow the Instagram, Pays and Plays _podcast. Follow the TikTok, Pays and Plays podcast. Available on both platforms. If you were at least a follower or know about it, I had both 2 days, round 2, day 1, round 2, day 2 picks. We went 2-1 on both days, collectively 4-2. Should have been 3-0, all right? Creighton lost by 12. I mean, bro, they actually were covering all game. That happens. Alabama, St. Mary's over 149. That didn't cash because I lost by 4 points. But when the Gales miss 8 to 10 close range hook shots, I mean, it was there. Okay. So please follow that. If you don't believe me, I don't know what to tell you, but like I have a reason to lie about it. I bet those games. So collectively, we're looking at 6-4 in the tournament so far. So over 60%, not bad, of course. So let's get right into it. We got the Thursday games, then we got the Friday games, and then at the very end, I'll tell you who I think can outright win as an upset. We'll talk about all of that. So first one, we got BYU versus Alabama. This is Thursday. Alabama 4.5-point favorites. Over under I'm looking at currently is 175.5. I'm going to go under the 175.5, even though that's probably not the best thing to do. But I got Alabama to win and cover. I respect what BYU has done. The reason why I went with BYU the last 2 games is because they were over there in that elevation. Now you're all the way to, I believe, Newark, New Jersey, so you're more down to sea level, and we're going to really see how these mountain boys can really play at that point. We know Alabama can go up and down the court on you, but so can BYU as well, and that's the catch. So that's why I'm kind of leaning. I wouldn't touch that over 175.5. Listen, I'm not touching that at all right? If I'm not mistaken, I think this line at one point was Bama -5.5, so it dropped down a point. But I still see some juice towards the Alabama side. So it might pop up another 5.5. If it pops up to 6.5, I might be tempted to take BYU on a 6.5, right? Y'all know me. There's only certain times where I'm kind of like iffy on doing it. But on this one, though, I'm going with Bama to win and cover. But like I said, I'm not touching this game. But that total, I wouldn't dare bet under on that one because I don't know, bro. Alabama games, bro, you just can't go under in them. I'm just sorry. Next game, we have Maryland versus Florida. This is going to be over in the Bay, the West Coast, San Francisco, Oakland, whatever y'all want to call it. I think they're playing San Francisco now. The over-under is 153.5, if I'm not mistaken. Correction, it's 156.5, and you got Florida as a -6.5-point favorites. I'm going with Maryland to cover the 6.5, Florida to win. The problem with Florida Gators, though, man, they like to miss free throws a lot, and you have to wonder will that hurt them in this type of matchup. Listen, Maryland, if they do the one thing that I think they can do, then they can win this game. They need to play from the inside out. You got Queen. You got a projected top 5 guy who, I mean, he could score. He could drive it into the lane. I think they need to play. They need to emphasize that. Drive the ball into the lane, and if you can't drive it into the rock, then kick it out. I believe that's the best way for them to win this game. If people remember, I know I'm talking NBA real briefly, but if people remember Dwight Howard when he was with the Magic, you remember once Dwight Howard had that ball in the post, they tried to double team, he kick it out to somebody, and they would have an wide open three. If they could do something like that, you can beat Florida. I like Walter Clayton though; he can ball, so that is the thing with him. And he can make 2 or 3 shots, and that can change the game for Florida as well. So Maryland, I like the 6.5. I think I saw it as at 7 briefly, but if it juices over to 7.5, I would definitely be taking Maryland to cover on the spread. Next game, you got Arizona versus Duke. Duke minus 9.5, over under 153.5 against Arizona. I'm going with the over. I think the over, I'm leaning towards that one as maybe a borderline best bet because I can see both teams scoring both sides. And if I see Duke blowing out Arizona. I don't think it will, but 9.5 is a lot. But if they do happen to blow them out, which they already have done this year, you remember when I told you guys earlier the year, take Duke on the money line, they were underdogs against Arizona? You saw how that happened, right? If that's anywhere similar to that, maybe a little uglier, that's how I think the over 153 might hit. Arizona man, listen, Arizona can let you score. I watched that game against Oregon. And they were up big. Oregon was up big. Oregon just blew it at the end, but they were up big against Arizona State. And it was nothing that Arizona could have done. I know I said Arizona State, but you guys get the point. Arizona Wildcats, y'all get it. I got Duke beating them. And shout out to Duke. I'm not the biggest fan of Duke. I have said I hate Duke more than I hate Ohio State. But the coach they got, when I found out he was on that Natty team from 2010 when they beat Butler, and I'm like, it makes sense why this team is still so good. Like they haven't lost a step. The recruiting is still good. The team is still good. The coaching is still good. So I got to give Coach K for picking this guy as his successor because the guy has been winning since he's been a head coach for Duke. Next game, we got Arkansas versus Texas Tech. This is the second game over in the Bay. You got Texas Tech as a minus 5.5 point favorite, over under 147.5. Another game where I'm looking towards taking the over 147.5. Now, I know Arkansas isn't the best scoring team, but I'm looking at it more from the Texas Tech side because they can score. And the one thing that Calipari teams do seem to struggle is defense. So that's kind of how my lean is. I don't like it as 5.5. If it was like maybe 4.5, I would lean towards taking Texas Tech. I gotta respect what Coach Cal has done with this Arkansas team, though. This team did not. I mean, this team was a bubble team. I didn't even think this team would have made the tournament, but they did. And I mean, they've been successful to reach the Sweet 16. You beat St. John's, but St. John's can't score worth a lick. That is the difference between St. John's and this Texas Tech team. This Texas Tech team will shoot the 3 ball efficiently, which is like I said, I'm leaning towards the 147.5 total. Friday games, we got 4 of those. This is where really all the bets are, and then we'll call it a day. Give me 1 second. Next game, we got Ole Miss versus Michigan State. Over under is 143.5. We got Michigan State as a minus 3.5 point favorite. I would take Michigan to win and cover. But also, I'm not gonna lie, I love the over 143.5. I do think points will be scored because Ole Miss can score. Michigan State, if you give them the chance, they will score too. They're not usually a high volume scoring team, but because they can't shoot threes like that. Let's be quite honest. We know Michigan State can't shoot threes like that, but they can shoot good middies and they can play from inside and they can shoot their free throws. So that's the one thing you do look for in a team like that. I'm surprised that nobody has seemed to play zone against Michigan State. Like nobody has seemed to play it against. I don't know why they haven't, but if you can play zone on this team, there's a possibility that Ole Miss could win this game because, like I said, Michigan State can't shoot the three. So if you play in a 2-3 zone, I mean, that's not really affecting them for a 3 point line because they can't make it. So that's a caution that you do have to watch for Michigan State. But like I said, I will lean towards MSU winning and covering. Next game, we got Kentucky versus Tennessee. Tennessee minus 4.5 point favorites over under 145.5. I got this as a best bet. I got Kentucky on the money line plus 165. Listen, this team has swept Tennessee. I know it's hard to beat a team a third time around, but Tennessee doesn't have the scoring like Kentucky does. And Mark Pope, the defense has been better, and from the SEC tournament to the NCAA tournament, the defense has been a lot better. And it goes to what I say about the Duke coach. This is a guy who won a national championship with Kentucky as a player. He understands the level how it is to be a coach for this team, and he's been doing it pretty well from the transfer portal. Got a couple freshmen too, but you got a mixer. It isn't an old Cal team where you get 5 freshmen and you expect them to see. That eventually long term wasn't going to work, as you've been seeing. It just wasn't going to work. So this method with Kentucky has been working. Listen, I respect Rick Barnes as a coach for Tennessee. I like some of the players they got. I think the point guard they got will be a good NBA point guard. I like some of the players, but you can't get into a track meet with Kentucky if you can't hang. And I don't think Tennessee offensively can hang with them, which the last 2 meetings have showed. So I'm going with Kentucky to win and cover this game. I guess you could call it a minor upset. Next game, we got Michigan versus Auburn. Auburn 8.5 point favorites over under 153.5. I'm going Michigan to cover. I did sprinkle a little bit on the money line too, but I got Auburn. I think Auburn could pull it out, but definitely 8.5 is definitely the best bet for me. Plus 8.5 for Michigan is this is a lot of points. And this game opened up at 7.5, and it went up a point before I took it. And currently, it's still getting juiced towards Auburn. So if we're looking at possibly a 9.5 before Friday tip off, don't be surprised if I double bet this one, because this game right here, like I mentioned, Jahani Broom. I like Jahani Broom. He's been balling out. I like what Bruce Pearl has done for Auburn as a coach. He's making Auburn a basketball powerhouse. There's a reason why SEC has 7 teams in the Sweet 16. The SEC is good. The Big Ten is good too, because we've been dominating the conference. And when you look at the wins and tournaments, we've been winning. So it's going to be a good matchup. I look at Michigan with their size. I see it as a problem, because I know Auburn center he might not be playing. I know they lost another injury to the big man too, so they lost a couple of front court players. Broom's going to have to handle one or the other, right? If I'm Broom, I'd rather handle Wolf, because Wolf can do a lot more. But then Vlad Golden's right there to clean up the rebound. So when you're dealing with 2 7-footers, it's going to be difficult. Michigan needs to limit the turnovers that they did against Texas A&M. If they can do that and score lights out like they did, I can see Auburn possibly going down as the number 1 overall seed. And lastly, we got Purdue versus Houston. Houston minus 7.5 point favorites over under 132.5. The best bet for me would be the over 132.5. Listen, these games, when it comes to Houston, I know they've been looking low, but it's all about the dance partners you're with. Purdue is a good dance partner because Purdue can score, but their problem is also they don't have a Zach Edey type player anymore as in the paint. So I can see Houston dominating that paint. They can shoot 3. Houston is top 3 in offensive efficiency. That is definitely a key. And I just see both sides. Purdue can score too, so I can see 132.5. I mean, if it ends up being a 67 game, I mean, there you go. That's your total. So, if you ask me outright who I think can win upset outright, all right, as I'm looking at some of these games, Ole Miss is one, and I'm going to say because you can if you play zone against Michigan State, it's very possible. So I'm gonna say Ole Miss is one. Chris Beard as a coach, he was at Texas Tech. That took that team to the Natty game against Virginia. So we know there's some coaching experience. I know Izzo's a good coach, one of the best coaches I ever seen in college basketball. But he hasn't advanced to the Elite Eight since 2019. So we have to see. I took obviously Kentucky. I took them against Tennessee, so I think Kentucky's a good live dog. Michigan is a good live dog, and I would not nudge my nose if people pick Maryland to beat Florida. It just would nudge my nose to do it because Florida doesn't play that much good enough defense. That's just my view. As long as Maryland does not try to chunk up all these threes that they did against Colorado State, I think there's a chance. This concludes Sweet 16 picks and predictions. Like I mentioned, follow the socials, Pays and Plays _ podcast on Instagram, Pays and Plays podcast on TikTok. You will see me post the Elite 8 best bets on there. So as always, guys, be safe out here, man, and let's get this cheese.